All right, so I've got to ask you a question. Yes, you specifically. Have you ever opened up your hive, kind of just looked around at what's inside, and been like, okay, now what? What in the world am I looking at? It's fun. I see bees, I see frames, but you have no idea how to read them. You don't even know to look to see if they've got enough feed. What is brood? Yeah, I think I heard something about that. I think it's where like the queen is laying. How do I know if it's like, if it looks good or if it doesn't? Like, do I need to do something? Or should I just close this up and back out completely? The guy I bought these from said I should probably feed them. What do you feed bees? You just don't know where to start. Like you thought you started, but where do you go from here? Yeah, well, I promise I've been there and there is a way through. My very first colonies I was so excited about. I would drive over to the yard where I had them in an orange grove in Florida. I would get out and look at them, and I remember feeling all this excitement, but I also remember feeling this confusion. I would open them up, I didn't know what I was looking at. I heard something about mites, didn't know what to do for them, or even like where to buy that stuff. I didn't even want to buy mite treatment strips because I didn't know if they worked, like when to put them in. It was just too overwhelming. Well, I got news for you. Most beekeepers don't struggle because beekeeping is hard. Beekeeping is actually easy. They struggle with beekeeping because they go into the hive without a plan. And they don't have a plan because they don't realize that they need one. When someone gives someone else a strategy, a step-by-step, a blueprint, it makes whatever they're doing so much easier. And then they can start to learn for themselves because they get more of an idea of what to look for. Well, that's exactly what I'm going to give you today. I'm going to give you a 4-step plan on how to inspect a hive, what to look for, and why you're doing it. You're going to understand the why. And the time and experience and exposure you get to looking in your colony is going to give you more knowledge. And as you begin to gather that knowledge and start to apply it over time and experience, it will turn into skill, which ultimately is what wisdom is. So the good news is, beekeeping doesn't have to feel chaotic when you go into the apiary. It doesn't have to feel disorganized and confusing when you get into a hive. It can feel calm, deliberate, and you can feel confident. In fact, you will feel confident. You're going to get there. Today, I'm going to give you the tool to make that happen. What is that tool? Glad you asked. It's something I came up with when I was writing my book, The Beekeeper's Guide to the Seasonal Roadmap to Keeping Bees Anywhere, what to do and when to do it. I call it the comb equation. Like if you were to put beekeeping into an equation, what would it look like? And so I came up with C-O-M-B, comb. And each letter stands for a different step of the process when you are approaching a hive inspection. And once you start to use this, you're going to notice a difference. And you're going to notice this difference every single time you do it. So I just want you to imagine, just for a second, walking into your apiary, you got a smoker lit, you've got your armor on, and as you're approaching your hive, you know exactly what you're going to be doing and why you're there. And you know that no matter what scenario you might find inside of the beehive, that you'll be able to do something about it if necessary. So what this comb equation is going to give you, and I promise I'm getting right to it, it's going to give you clarity, repeatability, you're going to be able to do this over and over, and it's going to give you the confidence to where one day you'll be doing this comb equation not even thinking about it. You're just going to be getting into a colony because you know what to do. All right, so let's get to it. The C in comb stands for check the outside first. So long before you pop the hive cover or pop the top box off, you should be looking on the outside of your colony first. What is the weather like? What's blooming? What is available for my bees right now? Is there anything negative going on outside of the colony on the ground in front of the entrance? In other words, do you see what I call crawlers? Usually those are bees that have too much of a mite load. The viruses are running rampant in the colony and the bees are falling out of the hive unable to fly. They're squirming around. So always check the front of your hive on the ground. The most important thing to notice that's going to tell you what's going on inside of the hive before you even pop that hive cover is, what does the entrance activity look like? Right now it's early winter here, and I'm outside of one of my colonies, and as you can tell, the sun is hitting the front of this. So we're about probably 50 degrees, and there's a little bit of activity on the outside. There's no pollen on any of these bees' legs that I can see, which tells me they're out either performing a cleansing flight, or they're trying to hopefully find some pollen. But either way, this little bit of activity is telling me that it's warm enough for some of these foragers to get out. So A, I know they're alive. B, they have enough resources in the area of population that they can expend some of these foragers to go out and look for something. And maybe it's water, who knows? But that hive entrance activity is going to vary day to day and season by season. And when you stop and observe that first, instead of starting to pop this off first with your hive tool, you're going to learn a lot more about reading what is going on inside by reading what's going on outside. To summarize pretty much what I just said, the bees will tell you what's going on. You just have to listen to them and learn to do so. Checking the outside is going to prevent you from going into a blind inspection, just simply looking in the hive. That's not enough. And that's why we're giving you this framework, so that you can go in with a plan. So the O in comb, in the comb equation, stands for observe. Now it's time to put some cool smoke in the entrance there, under the hive cover a little bit, and then pop that hive cover and get into the guts of the inspection. What are you observing? Now our tasks as beekeepers do vary from season to season. That's going to dictate what I'm doing when I'm in the hive. But no matter what season it is, you should always look for the three main things that you need to observe while you're performing a hive inspection. Now I'm going to list several things, but they all fall under either population size, food stores, and brood situation. All right, so you should be checking out your population size, how many frames there are of bees, because you're going to have frames that don't have any bees on them. There's just an empty box, obviously, but when you're looking down, as soon as you take a hive cover off, what you see first thing should tell your mind, okay, my colony is small and weak, my colony is large and strong. That's going to hit you right off the top of the bat, especially when you've got several colonies to compare this to. You're going to be checking out their brood stores as you remove frames, boom, boom, working your way in towards the brood nest. These food stores will tell you another thing about the strength of the colony. Are they storing nectar, or are they not? If they're not, they're weak. If they are, you know they've got a larger population to do so. What does their brood look like? How many frames of brood? What does their brood pattern look like? Is it spotty with a lot of holes, or is it fairly solid, which is going to indicate a lower mite count, a better quality queen? It's another good time to check your bare frames and see how they're coming along with getting drawn with beeswax. Of course, that's really only going to happen if you feed the crap out of them, which is sort of an unnatural situation. I like to get my frames drawn out during a honey flow, because that's when resources are coming in. That's when bees love to do what they do best, draw wax. And of course, when you're in the brood nest, you're going to be wanting to look for eggs. That's going to be your evidence of a present and laying queen. And then all of this will ultimately give you the result of, is my population size equivalent to the amount of food I'm seeing, and are these two things equivalent to the amount of brood I'm seeing? Everything should have a balance of equivalency. A large hive with a little bit of food is bad. It means that there's more mouths to feed than there is food. A low population size, that's not good either, because it means they don't have the amount of brood and resources to go out and gather more honey, or excuse me, nectar and pollen. So there should be an equivalency no matter what size they are, whether it's a small hive, medium, or large. Their resources need to reflect one another in a nice balance. If they do not, that is when we plan a follow-up inspection, and that will come last. But the M in the comb equation is next. And this is where beginner beekeepers transform. Too many decisions are made once you open the hive and try to figure out, what do I need to do now? This is not necessarily the time to do anything. Consider your first inspection when you are going into an unknown as an assessment inspection. You're just here to analyze. What is the current status of these things? Population, brood, food. Once you figure it out, take some notes and then close it up. And then that's where the M in the comb equation comes in. Now it's time to map out the results that you analyzed from the O in the comb equation, your assessment. And this is the point where you got to ask yourself, what's working? What is this hive doing well? Where is this hive lacking? Should they have more food? Do you think they need more brood? Perhaps they've got a low quality queen. Maybe she needs requeened. But this is the point where you map out where a hive is lacking and where it might be strong, so that you can follow up and help them do what they're already doing, which is in spring trying to grow. In summer, it is trying to produce. And in fall, it's trying to conserve. And so if you work with the bees in the seasons, doing what the bees are doing with each season, then you're working with them, you're flowing with them and nature, and you probably feel it one, and you're like, oh my gosh, I am so enlightened. Maybe, maybe not. But anyways, it feels a lot better to work with the bees than always struggling against them, trying to put what you think should be happening on the bees. Once you've mapped out your plan of action, it's time for your follow-up inspection. This is where you take action. And this is the B in the comb equation, balance. Balance your resources. If they're lacking in brood, give them brood from a stronger colony. If they're lacking in food, give them food from a stronger colony, or supplement their feed with sugar syrup, ideally nutritionally boosted, not just pure carbs. Perhaps you need to add space. They're a growing colony. Maybe they're a weak colony and you need to decrease their space so they can defend it and keep it warm easier than a large space where hive beetle or moth could take over and eventually cause your colony to collapse. Maybe you need to reduce the entrances because it's the dearth time of the year and robbing's starting to happen. Or perhaps you should do absolutely nothing. When the beekeeper either doesn't know what to do or everything seems to be working fine, it's time to put the hive cover back on and back away. Sometimes inaction can be the very action that we need to do. Now, if you're curious about how to take this comb equation to the next level, of course, doing it is going to be the key that does that for you. You're going to level up when you apply this framework, this structure to your next hive inspections. But I'm going to link a video up here showing one of my spring inspections. I was not teaching the comb equation in that video necessarily, but I was going over the principles of it by demonstrating what to look for in an inspection. So apply what you see in this video to this spring inspection video and it'll help a lot. But you can also check out my book, The Seasonal Roadmap to Keeping Bees Anywhere. And I titled it that way because I don't speak in terms of January. I don't tell you what you should be doing in March because I have no idea where you are. If you are in California or Texas or Maine, it's going to be different than my month of March here in Georgia. So instead, I speak to you in terms of season because it's the common language that you and I have. I can tell you what to do in early spring in this book, and you can apply it to early spring in your area. I've got it all mapped out. It explains what bees are doing in each season based on what's happening out here in each season so that you know how to work with them in each season. And of course, there's links to all of these resources for you below. Hey guys, thank you for watching. I made this particular video and all my videos really so that you don't have to keep guessing. I understand the confusion that beekeepers have, especially in the first few years. And it's my intention to take away that chaotic part of beekeeping so that you can start to have fun in the apiary. You just need a method, and that's what I've developed through the years to make it easier on you. You guys haven't seen the mistakes that I've made, the pain that I've had in beekeeping, so it's hard to really communicate what you'll be avoiding. But I can promise you that you'll get to the point that you feel and know that you can faster than I did. And the comb equation is the perfect step one to do this. If you can start practicing this, you've got a methodical way of going into the bee yard and coming out of the bee yard, knowing what you're doing, what you're going to do next time, and that's going to give you the confidence to sleep easy at night and know, hey, I'm getting the hang of this. So start using this every inspection, stop reacting to the bees and the circumstances, and start partnering with them. And then you can go in with confidence.